You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholic, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, and press them guns. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast and Kubiak. And everybody, welcome back. I know it's been a little while since I've hopped up on the track and did a podcast here, but I had reason for it. You guys out there, all Saints fans out there, you were probably waiting on me to do another podcast like the Saints and all the fans have been waiting on the Saints to hire a new offensive coordinator. So that particularly is the reason why I hadn't done a podcast in a while, because I've just been waiting for the Saints to uh, get their guy, get who they're wanting at the offensive coordinator position, who they think is going to come in here and change everything. I guess change the whole offensive game plans and how all that works. And I guess they'll come in and add the players they like and maybe assistants that they like. So it's just come and change the whole outlook of the offense. It's going to be completely new. I don't think there's going to be any of the Sean Payton gimmick stuff in there anymore. They're just finally turning the page on all of that. And I think the Saints got their guy. If nothing else, it's a notable name, and that makes Saints fans happy momentarily. But uh, and I'm talking about Clint King's uh, Clint Kubiak is who I'm talking about. But a lot could happen still. There's no guarantee yet that he's gonna sign with the Saints. Because he's still in the running for being like a passing coordinator for the 49ers, and he could still win a ring. So they're just not. There's no ink to paper yet on all that. So I think people out there that have the right to be happy, and they're happy that a guy that they're familiar with is potentially supposed to sign with them. But I wouldn't bust out the champagne just yet. But I'll get back more into that here in a second. But we have some other topics to go over, and let's get into this first one here. So can I get a menu? And so this first topic that probably sparked everyone's interest during the AFC and the NFC championship game last Sunday. And I'm talking about some of the tweets and stuff that Michael Thomas was sending out during the game and uh, around after game time. But mostly when I didn't even catch it. I don't even really follow Michael Thomas on Twitter, and I haven't been like a huge backer of him since like the second year that he basically missed. So even when he's attempted to come back and kind of look good in games here and there, I hadn't really talked about him, because I'm not sold that he can get back to where he is, and it just seems like anytime it looks like he's starting to come back into his old self, he always gets hurt. But the main thing the only thing that I really noticed was that he was just like making such great comments about other players on the 49ers and the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Lions. He's just talking about how like Dan Campbell is so great, or uh, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback ever. And that's just kind of weird. It's kind of a suspect thing to do. I guess he's not signed. He's not signed to a deal with the Saints anymore anyway. So I guess he can talk about other teams uh, as he wants. But there's no crime against uh, boasting about and hyping up other players from other teams, I guess. But it was the comments like after that though, and these comments. Uh, he actually did delete these, so I'm kind of paraphrasing here a little bit, but he was just talking about how the Saints just in the season when he was playing that they didn't really target him, like that he was open, and then on the injury that he got injured, that it was because of like a hospital ball thrown by Derek Carr, which is just a bad throw that put him in position to get injured, and then I mean he just never came back because of that. So he's kind of putting the Saints game plan like offense on blast there, but then he's even putting like his own quarterback on blast there. So that just has me just kind of I'm just kind of done with Michael Thomas because of that. Because it's just like he's always talked like this, but man, when you're taking like shots at your quarterback, which I guess he's done that before. He did that to Drew Brees during the whole kneeling situation. He took shots and said some interesting things on Twitter then, but once they delete it, then I guess it's not there anymore. But it's out there. It's already out there. It's been put out there. But this is just kind of how Michael Thomas is. But he was saying that they just don't throw it to him, and if he would have been able to stay healthy, and that he would have gotten like I guess just shy or just above 1,000 yards receiving, and he knew, and he even mentioned, woulda, coulda, shoulda, like obviously, well, that's just kind of been him since 2020. It's just like woulda, coulda, shoulda. Is he ever going to get healthy? But he hasn't, and he wasn't on pace. He wasn't on pace to have 1,000 yards receiving. He only had 44.8 yards a game, so that wouldn't have put him on pace for 1,000 yards. But he played in 10 games, so it's the most games he's played in since 2019. But actually, he was having a better season uh, in 2022 before he got hurt, and he only played in 3 games in that season because he had 3 touchdowns and he only had one in 2023, and he was averaging 57 yards a game, so he was actually better in 2022. So even with the injuries, just age and decline is something to probably highlight because he's 30 years old and will be 31 next season. Yeah, so he'll be 31 in March. So, but just with the production that he's put out over the last 4 seasons, rolling into 5 now, I just don't, man, I just don't see where you have the room to really talk and throw on other people under the bus like that. Because I would much rather a player be available than get some kind of nicked injury, and then just because they don't like the quarterback or they don't like the head coach, then they just decide they don't want to play anymore. Like it's definitely for me, it's definitely a best ability is availability. So I don't perceive the Saints trying to work any kind of deal out with Michael Thomas, because I think they'll still owe him probably like I think like $12 million even if he's not on the team last year. So I mean the only way to like get rid of like that dead cap would be to restructure his deal and bring him back for another year. But I don't see that happening, and I wouldn't expect it to either. So Michael Thomas, you were a Saints legend, always will be, and will always go down as having one of the best seasons of all time in 2019 with the 149 catches, 1,700 yards, nine touchdowns. But I think it's just time to move on, and I'm perfectly fine with that. It's a little sad, but I'm ready to move on to Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, A.T. Perry. Give me more of that young trio. I'll take that all day over Michael Thomas. But I think we're definitely seeing I wouldn't say it's the abrupt end of Michael Thomas, but just the end of him. And it's been building. He's been saying stuff like this. He's been acting like this with any kind of uh, di- different option at quarterback. Like he's been negative about Drew Brees. He's been a negative about Jameis Winston, and now he's negative about Derek Carr. That's just kind of how he is. He likes to play the blame game. All right, so that's enough of that. That's enough talk about Michael Thomas. Let's talk about this is probably another topic that has Saints fans a little bit heated, but should have been expected. As nothing that I'm surprised by at all. I guess the only thing that it would really get people heated on is if is that by doing this you can't get rid of him next year. So you're basically like when, and I'm talking about Derek Carr restructuring his contract. When Saints originally signed him, it was like, oh well, they're guaranteed married to him for like the next 2 years, and so because the Saints are like 82 million over the cap, like they need like the biggest restructure they can get, and that's from Derek Carr, who's sitting at like 30 million right now, and so if they if and just unless that Derek Carr was just absolutely horrible next year, they would probably just want to go ahead and pay him this and then get rid of him next year. But by restructuring, it marries you to him for an extra year, so that would be 3 years. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to reduce his base salary of 30 million to like a veteran minimum, pay the difference out in a signing bonus, which is perforated over the 5 years. That lowers the cap hit to 12.6 million in 2024, and that saves the Saints. Um, that saves the Saints around 23 million. So that brings like their 82 down to like 60 or 59 or 60 million. So they still, even at that point, they would still have the most cap to cut and most restructured to have to do, because the other, I think there's two teams uh, under them that only have 50 million to restructure, and that's before they've restructured any contracts of their top players or their quarterbacks. So this is something that I'm not really surprised by. I think a lot of Saints fans were expecting a lot more from Derek Carr, but I think you kind of, when you look at current quarterback pay scale and things like that, and you look at the history of Derek Carr's Derek Carr's production. I mean, he basically got what you paid for, and he's not the highest paid quarterback, and I mean, it's a good thing. That's just how contracts the Saints arrange contracts, So it's a nice that uh, Derek Carr would sign this contract and know that he can help the Saints down the road by doing this restructure. So it's just kind of something that everyone should expect, and hopefully we can see some improvements in Derek Carr. Even though got basically average of what he kind of does over his career, but you got to take into account a little bit that the 9-8 season was like only the third winning season in Derek Carr's career, and that was his first year with the Saints. So hopefully there's some improvement to be made there. But yeah, so a lot of fans are a little upset about that, and I don't know, shouldn't be surprised, but it looks like we'll definitely have Derek Carr. We'll be strapped in for the next 2 seasons at least, till they maybe try to restructure something else. Who knows? All right, so now then, um, we're going to uh, the OC. The Saints have signed an offensive coordinator. Finally, after the long search of uh, interviewing like Blake Getsy and Brian Greasy and Jaron Johnson and Ben Johnson, like interviewing all these different names and marquee guys, and um, interviewing them like multiple times, interviewing them over Zoom, the Zoom call, and then actually taking them out to lunch, uh, and that just this been going on for like the last month. It feels like, I guess, since the season ended. So for like the last 2-3 weeks, it's been going on, and you see in all these other offensive coordinators, either going somewhere else after the Saints have interviewed them twice, or they decide to stay with their team. And then that just kind of uh, in the last couple days here, when they finally got Clint Kubiak, I guess the hot names for them, since a lot of guys had already been signed or went and became a head coach or stayed with their team. We were looking at Clint Kubiak and Blake Getsy and Brian Greasy, who was like a guy who used to be like the quarterback for the Chicago Bears. But yeah, Clint Kubiak, he has a long history. Just mainly, I know him uh, from knowing his dad, who let's see, yeah, yeah, his dad Gary Kubiak, and I remember him when he was like with the Denver Broncos and with the Houston Texans, and he just had a long history. He was a really good uh, a good head coach and a very respected like defensive coordinator, uh, offensive coordinator. So that's really why the name uh, Clint Kubiak, the Kubiak, that kind of rings a bell and it's kind of familiar to me. So that's why I was kind of happy when they signed him, just because I'm thinking, oh, he's a young up and coming head coach, or coach, just coach, offensive coordinator, offensive mind, and probably looking to have a couple good seasons as an offensive coordinator and probably looking to become a head coach. But yeah, I like the youth and potential there, because he only 36 years old, and he's passing coordinator and coaching under Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I would take the water boy if he had any kind of real in-depth uh, conversations with Kyle Shanahan, because I think that that's just a new wave of offenses, is kind of stuff that you see out of the Rams and the 49ers, and the Saints need to get them some of that. But just going over the history of Clint Kubiak, he was with the Minnesota Vikings as a quarterback coach and a offensive coordinator from 2019 to 2021. I think they made the playoffs one or two of those seasons, so that's something to definitely write home about. And then he had just like one season with the Denver Broncos in 2022 under the horrible coach. That was before Sean Payton was traded there. So that's nothing to really write home about. And then I mean he's passing coordinator slash probably like assistant offensive coordinator, even though Kyle Shanahan probably calls all the plays. But I mean now he's in the Super Bowl, the 2023-2024 Super Bowl versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And you know, after the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship game, I really wasn't too thrilled about cheering or even watching that Super Bowl, just because I'm not a huge fan of the Chiefs. I'm not a huge fan of the 49ers because of the old NFC Central, the old NFC West. The Saints are still, in my mind, are still rivals of the 49ers and the Rams. So I really, and then my buddy, which I've brought up before, he's a Raiders fan. So obviously can't be a huge fan of of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, Andy Reid, and all of that. But now, because the Saints are supposed to, just keeping your goggles on, supposed to, ifs, and leaving the door open, are supposed to sign Clint Kubiak now, and he's part of the 49ers passing game. He's a passing game coordinator. So, before Clint Kubiak gets to New Orleans and becomes a Saints offensive coordinator, hell, I would like it. I would like that for him to win a Super Bowl ring, get a Super Bowl ring added to his career history, and then you'd be able to say, hey, we got a coach on our team that's a Super Bowl winner. So now I guess I will be watching the Super Bowl, and I'll be, I guess I won't say that I'll be cheering necessarily for the 49ers, but I'll be wanting them to win, I guess, now, because a future Saint is on their team. But just to reiterate about looking forward, and should be signing or is going to sign. I was just talking about the Raiders, and this happened just today, like in the morning. on, what was that? That would have been Saturday, February 3rd. So previously, my buddy, who's a Raiders fan, was telling me how he was so happy about them getting Marvin Lewis and getting Kyle Kingsbury, uh, Cliff Kingsbury, and he's talking just hyped up about that, because Cliff Kingsbury, he was with the USC Trojans last year, and he was so he was the I think, yeah, he was the coordinator, the offensive coordinator for them. And so his quarterback was Caleb Williams, who's supposed to be coming out this draft and supposed to be like the first pick in the draft. And I was saying to my buddy that I think, because they got Cliff Kingsbury as their offensive coordinator now, that they may try to move up in the draft to get Caleb Williams. But now just recently, just the news broke just recently that Cliff Kingsbury is pulling out of that position, and that makes me think that he's going to end up going somewhere else to maybe a team that's higher, above the Raiders in the draft order, and maybe go and be the offensive coordinator, or maybe, depending on if a team just surprisingly fire someone, because all the head coaching positions have been filled, but someone could still get fired. But I think that's probably Cliff Kingsbury's plan, is to go somewhere else and try to get uh, Caleb Williams to be their new quarterback. But so that has me a little concerned, still, because there's still a lot of time in between now and after the Super Bowl. And it'd be interesting to see, like, if if the outcome of the Super Bowl changes Clint Kubiak's uh, idea of where he wants to go, or if he's going to stay. Because I think if, like, they have like some really close, like, heartbreaking loss, I could see where Clint Kubiak might want to come back uh, and try to win it again as their passing coordinator or their offensive coordinator. Maybe get a promotion or something with the with the 49ers. Say their passing game is really impressive, but their running game and defense lets them down, and just barely lets them down in the game. Then I could see where he might want to uh, stay with the 49ers, or maybe, in the next week or so, maybe some other team approaches him and opens up that checkbook. But yeah, so I'm happy. I like the signing just because of familiarity with the name more than anything, because I know I remember seeing a lot of Gary Kubiak with the Houston Texans and Denver Broncos, and he won some Super Bowls with the Broncos. So yeah, hopefully he ends up having the same type of career. Clint Kubiak ends up having the same type of career his dad did, and hopefully it's with the New Orleans Saints. And I think just because he's a young up and coming offensive mind, that he could maybe, if the Saints start the season like 1-4 or 2-6 or something, I could see where Dennis Allen may get fired, and then they kind of promote Clint Kubiak to the interim head coach. And if the rest of the season goes off without too many hitches, and maybe they'll promote him as their new head coach. But anyways, I'm just kind of the Super Bowl's coming up, and the Pro Bowls this week, which not too many people watch that. But it was just Rashid Shaheed who outright, like, made it as a kick returner. But then as some alternates, um, Demario Davis and Eric McCoy made it. But I didn't think they, in the long snapping game. Man, Eric McCoy didn't even make one of them, and did and Darren Demario Davis didn't look too great playing dodgeball either. So, but the catching the punt game of Sheet looked pretty good. But we'll just wait for more news to come in now that the off season is on the way, and the Saints are already in the middle of it. But anyways, I guess go 49ers, go Clint Kubiak. And so I think that's all I got for you. So can I get a check, please? And who dat?